St. Michael and all angels. It's actually tomorrow, but one of my favorite feasts, and the readings, certainly one of my favorite set of readings, so we get it today. Our passage from Genesis appointed for today about Jacob in the wilderness is one of my favorite passages in all the Hebrew Scriptures. That's because the story strikes me as a universal story. It's a story of a time when someone is in exile, when someone is alienated from their former life, when someone is uncertain and afraid. And it's the story about how God mysteriously shows up under these very conditions that you and I know a lot about these days. The background to this story is this. Jacob has done his brother wrong, very wrong, and has run away, fearing that his brother would do him harm. And so we meet Jacob at a time when the comforts of home and family relationships are gone, at a time when he's afraid and uncertain about what lies ahead for him. And after being on the run all day, we meet Jacob as he comes to what the biblical writer calls a certain place where, exhausted, he beds down for the night with only a stone for his pillow. Beautiful detail. You and I know something of this setting and this predicament. No, we're probably not on the run, I hope, from a family member we've wronged. But in many ways, these days, you and I, while at home, have been forced from the lives we used to know as home. We've come to a certain place that is not where we have been before, alienated from the way life was supposed to be at home, at work, and in the church. And what is more, we don't know whether things will ever return to normal, and people are even getting tired of saying that. And so, as one preacher put it, we find ourselves at an outpost called alienation, at a stopping place named uncertainty, in an encampment called fear. And fittingly, all we have is a stone pillow to lay our heads on as we do our best to rest in such a place. And the weather today could make us forget that we're in that place. But here's the thing. In this story, in an outpost called homelessness, in a stopping place named uncertainty, in an encampment called fear, in this place where our heads have only a stone pillow to rest upon, in this same story, something surprising happens. Jacob falls asleep, and he dreams a dream. So sometimes what we can't perceive in waking moments comes to us at the edge, in the twilight dreaming moments. It's a dream about a stairway between where he is physically, psychologically, and spiritually, and heaven itself. And walking up and down on that stairway are heavenly creatures whose role is to witness to the presence of God and to assist human beings in whatever predicament they find themselves in, and in some cases to put them in a predicament. And as he sees this, as Jacob sees this, and even after waking up from the dream, he feels the presence of God, though he had not noticed it before. And he hears the voice of God tell him that even from this difficult place, God is present, and that God will be present with him in the future. And Jacob wakes up still in that same deserted place, but somehow changed in the way he sees things. He renames the place Bethel, which means the gate of heaven. He does this not because all the harsh and frightening conditions have disappeared. He does this because he's given a glimpse into a deeper reality, and out of this has some hope for the future. Just given a little glimpse. And so here you and I are at your confirmation, at your reception, in the middle of a pandemic, and with all kinds of other things going on in our lives, and with that strange experience of things forced down on an emotional level we can't even be in touch with until they pop out. At least that's how it is for me. A time when we know only too well the feel of the stone pillow beneath our heads. Here we are asking ourselves every day where God is in all of this. And along comes this mysterious twilight story whispering to us that though we didn't know it, God is right beside us, and that though we dare not hope for it, God will not desert us in the future. And if this twilight story weren't enough, well, we have another story that our lectionary places right beside it. It's a daylight story. It's a daylight Jesus story. The story of Jesus in conversation with this extremely blunt Israelite called Nathanael. Nathanael thinks he knows who Jesus is, a rather unpromising person from an unpromising part of the world called Nazareth. That's before our reading. But in one encounter with Jesus, Nathanael discovers that Jesus is more than he thought. Jesus is the Son of God, come in the flesh, God right beside us, the one who, in taking on all the conditions of human life, including alienation, uncertainty, and fear, becomes the stairway upon which the love of God has come to us. And so in a daylight moment, Nathanael too is given a new way of understanding the presence of God with us now and for the future, as he too, much to his surprise, stands at the gate of heaven, though he would never have expected to be there, particularly with that person, Jesus. Which brings us to you and to me today, again, at your confirmation, at your reception. Where in your life, especially in those parts of your life that feel uncertain, alienated, fearful, where in the unpromising parts of your life is it just possible that God is present, though you do not notice him, though you do not see her? Where is the Holy One whispering to you or standing beside you with a loving presence that gently urges you on? How might you stop and notice that presence? How might you listen for it and listen to it, though you had not seen or heard it before? And here in our beloved Anglican Church, I'll extend it out because we have someone here going to the U.S., in the beloved Episcopal Church, in the Anglican Church worldwide, where in the life of our church, in the hardships that have occurred to us and among us, both in the historical hardships, which are many, and pains, and in the more recent uncertainty and losses, where in the Anglican Church is God present, though we had not noticed him, though we had not seen her? Where is the Holy One whispering love or standing beside us, gently urging us on? How might we notice such a presence? How might we listen for it and listen to it, though perhaps we had not seen or heard it before? Medical doctor Rachel Remen, R-E-M-E-N, she's a writer too, was once asked to work with other physicians to help them be more present to their patients rather than quickly going to the next appointment or checking boxes off or whatever physicians can do. Patients that typically were in difficult emotional states. One of the exercises she had the doctors do was to take out their stethoscopes and to spend several minutes listening to their own hearts. And they actually did it. At first, the physicians paid attention to what they would normally pay attention to in their work, that is the physical functioning of their hearts. And so they listened for murmurs and lung sounds related to diagnosing people. But as time went on, most reported that what they were listening to changed. They were listening to something beating at the center of their lives, something that had been there from before they were born. In that moment, said Rachel Remen, they glimpsed something beyond their habitual way of seeing and hearing. Afterwards, there was a silence, and one of the cardiologists present began to speak about his work and to wonder aloud how one could be so close to something holy and not know it. It reminded him, he said, of a prayer that he had learned many years ago. And somewhat embarrassed, he began to recite that prayer aloud. And this is my gift to you on your confirmation, on your reception. Here's the prayer. Days pass, and years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. Lord, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it.